Karen's SUV slammed my gate like it owed her rent. "Open it, community access," she barked. I held up the deed. "This road's mine, not your HOA playground." She laughed, revved, and hit it again. Wood cracked, cameras blinked, neighbors froze. "You're obstructing," she hissed. "You're trespassing," I said, pointing to the sign. "No public easement. Recorded. Legal. Final." If you've ever watched power mistake itself for law, stay tuned, because by sundown, that bumper meets steel, and the sheriff meets evidence. That night I sat under the barn light and mapped out every incident. First the gate crash, then the easement claim, then the violation notice tucked into my mailbox like an ultimatum. I read the deed again and again until the legalese blurred, but the lines were clear. My property did not fall under Pine Hollow HOA jurisdiction. Yet Karen used her office like a cudgel, waving supposed community rules to intimidate anyone who asked questions. I started a file, photos of the crushed gate, timestamps of her crossings, the violation letter, and witness notes from neighbors too scared to speak openly. If you've ever faced bureaucratic bullying, you know that paper can be both a weapon and a shield, so I decided to turn the ledger into a hammer. The next morning, I knocked on doors like a man on a mission. Glenn, the retired trucker, remembered seeing Karen's convoy cross my pasture. Mrs. Delgado from 2 farms down had video from her security camera showing SUVs on my property at 7:12 a.m. and 7:18 a.m. I took those clips to the county clerk and watched their faces change as the legal reality sank in. People assume bureaucracy is monolithic, untouchable, but it's run by humans who need proof to move. With a photocopy of my deed and the camera footage, the clerk promised to flag the issue. Meanwhile, I posted a single line on the neighborhood board. "Anyone else have easement claims that don't exist?" Replies trickled in quiet at first, then fast stories of fines, threats, and phone calls that smelled like coercion. Apparently, I was not the only one who'd been pushed. Karen doubled down. She mailed another notice, a demand to restore community aesthetics, or face escalating fines. I took it straight to Sheriff Landry. He knew me from county fairs and emergency calls. His eyes narrowed as he thumbed through the folder. "We can't have people locking keys to a gate and telling citizens they can't use their land," he said. He assigned an officer to patrol for trespass reports and asked me to keep documenting. I did more than that. I put up a cheap motion-activated camera where the driveway met the road and left a recorder in the mailbox. If she wanted a fight, she'd get footage, her crew, her dates stamped in black and white. And if you're into DIY, try this. A simple trail camera and 2 reliable witnesses will make a bureaucrat squirm. The day the HOA men arrived in a pickup to measure compliance, I had the sheriff's deputy waiting. They tried to be polite clipboards, measuring tape, the whole charade, but when the officer asked for paperwork authorizing access, their faces lost their practiced calm. No document, no easement. Just a story about community safety. I watched Karen on the porch across the street, phone glued to her ear, fuming. The deputy wrote them a trespass warning and left, but the message had been sent. If you violate private property, the county notices. Neighbors who'd whispered for weeks began to nod at me in the grocery store aisle. Courage is contagious. If you feel alone in a fight like this, look for one ally. You need a single voice to break the silence. I escalated smart, not loud. I filed an injunction request with the county court to stop any HOA member from crossing onto my land, and I served Karen with the paperwork via certified mail. She called it theatrical and warned the community that I was making trouble. The local paper smelled a story the feud of the year and sent a reporter to my gate. A front-page photo of Karen's SUV jammed into a cedar post was the kind of public pressure money couldn't buy. Suddenly, the HOA's leadership meetings moved to quiet, behind-closed-doors tones, and her usual swagger cracked. Public exposure flips the power dynamic. People hate being the villain on camera, especially people whose reputations depend on being respectable. Karen tried to pivot by spinning sympathy stories about me being a disruptive newcomer, claims about environmental concerns caused by my cattle. I countered with facts, signed deeds, survey maps, water right documents, and the sheriff's trespass report. I handed the reporters organized packets. I made my case crisp, professional, and impossible to ignore. That's the trick bullies thrive in fog. Clear it. If you're building your own case against overreach, document, timestamp, and get independent verification. I also asked for mediation, a neutral lawyer to sit with the HOA board and hash this out. They stalled, then refused. That refusal became the next headline. When the HOA filed a civil suit claiming a rite of passage, I didn't flinch. I had spent the previous months quietly building a different kind of leverage, mortgage records, and easement histories that showed the HOA's claims were manufactured, plus testimony from longtime locals about Karen's pattern of harassment. At the hearing, the judge looked at the clumsy language in the HOA's affidavits and at my compact, carefully sourced packet of proofs. He dismissed their emergency motion and scheduled a full trial with an order that no HOA member set foot on my land until the case resolved. Victory felt quiet and solid, not the kind that ruins someone, but the kind that restores your life. Vindication didn't mean revenge, it meant repair. I rebuilt the gate stronger, with iron brackets and concrete footings, but it wasn't about timber, it was symbolic. I organized a community day, inviting all neighbors, HOA members included, to come see how the land actually worked. Water lines, cattle patterns, road use. Many came with curiosity, a few with lingering resentment. We ate, took tours, and I let people ask questions. When someone mentioned fines they'd once paid, I shared the sheriff's report and the court's dismissal. People sometimes need a reality check delivered gently. Shame and information together can change entrenched habits. Karen faded from town like a bad season on television. First quieter, then gone. Her alliance splintered as homeowners who'd paid fines realized they'd been manipulated. The HOA survived, but not as a tyrant's instrument. New processes were written into its bylaws, including transparent notice requirements, independent audits, and a locally elected compliance officer unaffiliated with property sales or enforcement. I didn't gloat. I offered a handshake at the new annual picnic. People need a way back from conflict. If you're watching this because you're locked out, fined, or bullied by a committee, start small. Document everything. Find one ally and get the county on your side. Systems bend before a steady hand and clean evidence. A year later, my gate closes every night without threat. Cattle graze and kids ride bikes past the gravel drive again. I still see Kate from the HOA walking her dog. Sometimes we nod, sometimes we chat. Standing my ground wasn't about being mean, it was about holding the line for the life I'd built. If Karen taught me anything, it's that power without accountability corrodes communities. And if you're in the middle of your own HOA nightmare, remember this. Rules are tools, not badges of superiority. Use the law, your neighbors, and a camera. And when you win, rebuild something good respect, not revenge. Tell me below where you'd file your first piece of evidence. Let's build a blueprint for standing up to small tyrants together. Move it, Karen barked, leaning out of her SUV, engine snarling at my gate like a dog at a mailman. This road is for the community. I stayed on the tailgate of my old Chevy, coffee steaming in the cold air. Wrong community, wrong road, right deed. Her sunglasses tilted, smirk locked, confidence high. You can't gate public benefit. I laughed once. You can't steal private land with a bumper. We stared, neither blinking, until she slammed into reverse and vanished in a gravel storm. Hooks in, folks, because by sundown, that same bumper would be chewing splinters from my gate, and the Pine Hollow HOA would be treating my pasture like a freeway. If you've ever watched someone mistake your kindness for permission, type "not today" in the chat. The next evening, I came home to silence and ruin. Posts snapped, hinges torn, my gate pancaked flat like roadkill. Fresh tire marks cut a black seam across my grass, straight to the cul-de-sac. This wasn't a phantom. This was a parade. A maroon minivan with a HOA proud decal, a silver sedan with the treasurer's vanity frame. They weren't sneaking, they were practicing. Karen had turned my land into a shortcut with a smile and a spreadsheet. I fixed fence, counted hoofprints, and felt it in my gut. This wasn't vandalism, it was policy. And policy without permission is theft in a suit. Tell me I'm wrong. I tried peace one last time, walked into their brick bunker of an office, where binders were stacked like ammunition, and Karen sat like a judge on a stage. "We need to talk about your fines," she purred, sliding a paper across polished wood, unapproved structures, unkempt land, non-compliance with road easements totaling nearly $300. I stared. "I'm not in your HOA," she clicked her pen. "Every property here falls under our charter. County says otherwise." She leaned back, nails drumming. "Boundaries are flexible when community welfare is at stake. Boundaries are legal," I said. "Mine don't flex." She smiled without teeth. "You'll regret this." Classic bully line. Classic last straw. Nights went weird after that. Clipboard men started prowling my fence line, snapping photos of hay, barn doors, even the color of my gate. Midnight brought the pop of cedar and the scream of steel as Karen and two board cars plowed through again, headlights bouncing across my pasture like a carnival. My dogs howled, my horses scattered. I yelled into the dark and got laughter in return. Next morning at the sheriff's office, a deputy chewed a toothpick and shrugged. "Without video, it's your word against theirs." And Karen's connected. Right there, a fact sank in. I'd need more than a patched hinge. I'd need receipts and a plan that bit back, without breaking the law. Listen close, because this is the part where anger turns into architecture. If a structure keeps failing, you don't repaint it, you rebuild it. I sketched at my kitchen table until the paper went soft under my hand. 6x6 steel posts sleeved in concrete, anti-ram bollards set 3 feet deep, a swing gate with a lock shield and hinge pins hidden, a cattle guard that discourages speed, not safety. At a solar flood, 2 LPR cameras, license plate readers, pointed both ways, and a trail of legally perfect breadcrumbs. Certified letters to the HOA, a recorded survey, a no public easement affidavit on file, and a standing request for patrol. This wasn't a booby trap. This was a courtroom built out of metal and facts. Daylight brought crews and purpose. We sunk sonotubes, poured concrete, welded cross-bracing until the gate rang like a bell when you tapped it. The bollards stood shoulder wide, wide enough for a ranch truck, tight enough to make a bully lift her foot. I posted signs, like I meant them. Private road, no easement, 24/7 video, trespass equals civil and criminal. I mailed copies to the HOA, management company, and sheriff, each with map, parcel number, and a friendly note. Any board member who needs the county survey is welcome to call. Friendly doesn't mean soft, it means prepared. Then came the sting. I wired the LPR to ping my phone with plates and timestamps, saved to the cloud with clips stitched to GPS. A dash cam sat in the Chevy at the gate line, motion triggered, lens clean. I installed 2 trail cams facing the pasture cut-through and a third up in the cottonwood, just in case a clever SUV tried the ditch. And because paper wins, I drafted a 1-page incident form, date, time, plate, direction, driver description, damage observed. If you want to win against professional gaslighters, marry video to paperwork. The law likes couples that agree. It took 3 days. 10:42 p.m. A familiar growl rolled over the gravel, and the LPR pinged KRN 214. Karen. Headlights floated, then paused. She idled at the new steel like a dog smelling a porcupine. For once, she hesitated. Then she backed up, lined up the ditch, and tried to go around. Her right tire kissed the cattle guard, bounced, and this is the moment she froze in the center of a floodlight shaped like truth. Cameras drank everything. Face, plate, bumper scrape, the board member's sedan stacked in behind her, both of them blinking like deer in a classroom. She reversed, fishtailed, and bolted. I didn't run out. I didn't shout. I wrote. Time, plate, direction, saved, sent. The next morning, I packaged the night into a gift the sheriff's office couldn't shrug off. Videos, stills, my affidavit, the recorded survey, the certified mail receipts, and a peaceful request for a criminal trespass warning plus property damage charge. I CC'd the county attorney and my own counsel. Remember that toothpick deputy? He watched the clip twice, leaned back, and said, "We'll take it from here. Paper moves people at work. It also moves people with badges." Karen tried one last chest thump, marching up my steps, heels tapping like gavel knocks. "We voted. Your gate is coming down." I didn't cross my arms. I held up the sheriff's stamped warning. "Step 1 foot past that post, and you're on video violating a criminal notice with intent." She reached for the paper and paused mid-grab, calculating. "You're selfish," she hissed. "You're blocking community throughput. You're blocking reality," I said. "Roads belong to deeds, not feelings." She turned on a dime and left skid marks, metaphorical and otherwise. But you've seen bullies evolve. They pivot to smear. Within a week, Pine Hollow's Facebook group pulsed with posts about my hostility, photos of my aggressive gait, whispers about weapons because I own a ranch like every other rancher. So, I did what always works. I posted facts with a calm voice. Parcel map, survey, law code for trespass. 2 15-second clips with plates blurred. A line for the fence-sitters. Tell me which you prefer: legal access that keeps everyone safe, or chaos dressed as community. Comments split, then drifted my way. Even HOA donors don't like being used as human battering rams. The board doubled down with paper fireworks, new citations for imaginary standards, a laughable easement vote, a letter warning of escalation. I stacked each into a neat exhibit folder. Then I filed for a civil injunction. No entry, no damage, no false fines, no tampering, or face monetary penalties per incident. My lawyer slid across a foot-thick stack. Photos of destroyed gates, LPR logs, trail cam stills of board members wrenching at posts in the moonlight. The judge didn't want speeches. He wanted timestamps. He got them. The order landed with a thud. Enjoined. Costs reserved. Violations measurable in dollars. Karen's answer? A parade. She scheduled a community drive-through to demonstrate public usage, a choreographed trespass with car seats and outrage. I was ready. Sheriff notified. Signs refreshed. Gate locked. A portable message board flashing "Private Road Court Order" in effect. When the convoy rolled up, deputies were already parked in the shade. "Turn around, folks," one said mildly, "or sign this warning and smile for the camera." Engines cooled, tempers cracked, and the cars peeled away one by one like stickers off a bad bumper. Karen parked anyway, posed for a photo op, then left when nobody clapped. Here's where the story flips from mess to map. With the chaos contained, I built the road I wanted, a proper turnaround pad before the gate, reflective posts, a call box linked to my phone for deliveries, and a clean sign for emergency services with GPS coordinates. Then I walked 3 adjacent properties with neighbors who'd been quiet and found the truth. They hated the cut-through, too. We recorded matching affidavits. No consent, no easement, no history of public right. 3 deeds don't lie in chorus. I mailed copies to Karen's board, the sheriff, and the county attorney. You could feel the oxygen leaving her strategy. When bullies lose the shortcut, they swing at the person. Karen tried to paint me as dangerous at the feed store. The owner slid my envelope of printed court orders across the counter and said, "He's paid up. He's polite. He's right." Clipboard guy sniffed around my fence again. My game cam caught his plate. The injunction caught his wallet. A month later, word leaked. Pine Hollow's insurer had issued a reservation of rights letter translation. We don't cover intentional dumb. The board's lawyer stopped snarling and started negotiating. We met once. All chairs. No charm. Their counsel opened with misunderstanding and community cohesion. Mine opened a binder and placed 3 things on the table: the injunction, a draft civil claim for damages and fees, and a proposed settlement that looked like adulthood, written acknowledgments of no easement, withdrawal of bogus citations, reimbursement for my destroyed gates, and a letter to residents clarifying property boundaries. In exchange, I'd consider a keyed farm gate program for the 2 neighbors who actually needed periodic access, not a freeway for late coffee run. Everyone exhaled at the same time, except Karen, who stared holes into paper. The signatures came 2 weeks later, not because they wanted to, but because math beat mythology. Checks cleared, letters mailed. The HOA's proud decal took a sabbatical around town. My steel gate swung quiet in the morning, like a door that knew its job. And here's the twist nobody expected. I hosted a weekend Learn the Map Day. 2 hours. Parcel basics. How rights of way actually work. Kids got orange vests and counted posts. Grown-ups asked good questions. We ended at the gate with cold tea and a truth bigger than a boundary. You can be neighborly and legal at the same time. If you're here for a template, not just a tale, grab this and pin it. Pull your parcel map and survey. Know your lines better than your temper. Build lawful deterrents. Steel, bollards, lights, cameras, signs, and certified mail. Record everything video plus time plus plate plus note equals evidence. Make law your loudest voice injunctions beat arguments. Serve a reasonable alternative so reasonable people have someplace to stand. 6. Don't jaw with bullies in the dark. Let paper talk in daylight. If that lands, drop maps is greater than muscle below, so the next exhausted rancher finds a plan instead of a fight. Did Karen apologize? No. Bullies molt. They don't transform. But Pine Hollow learned a lesson they should have learned at closing. You don't vote yourself a right of way through someone else's deed. The HOA didn't die. It got house-trained. The lane is quiet now. Packages buzz the call box, not my horses. Neighbors wave with their whole hand. And at sunrise, when I swing that gate to roll out hay, it doesn't feel like a battleground anymore. It feels like what I bought, a small, stubborn line of earth that answers to stewardship, not volume. Last scene. Because you earned it. I found Karen's SUV idling by the turnaround one evening, hazard lights on, her hands white on the wheel. She didn't get out. I didn't walk over. She waited for someone to move the world for her, and then finally turned around under her own power and drove away slow. Not defeated, just contained by reality. That's all most of us want. Not to win a war. To sleep without flinching at engines. To feed horses under a sky that doesn't keep score. To own one gate that swings because you built it right and defended it better. If this gave you a little backbone for your own mess, share it. Somewhere there's a Karen with a clipboard and a good story she tells herself. Somewhere there's a you with a deed and a pulse. Remember, maps beat myths. Receipts beat rumors. And a steady voice backed by steel and statute carries farther than any SUV ever will. Call your tow truck, Karen, I said, voice steady, as her airbags sagged and the HOA convoy stalled behind her. You don't run this road anymore. She pointed at me, shaking with rage. This is entrapment. You could have killed us. I gestured to the posted signs, the cameras blinking red, the sheriff's cruiser rolling up slow like a verdict. It's called private property. And you were warned on paper, on video, and to your face. The deputy leaned into her window. Ma'am, step back from the vehicle. Neighbors filmed. Someone whispered, shortcuts closed, and the line turned into a chant. If you're watching, tell me law or noise. Type law in the comments if you'd rather swing a deed than swing at drama. I didn't celebrate. I documented. Photos from 4 angles, timestamps, plate numbers, damage notes, affidavits signed on my own tailgate. Martha, my attorney, filed our countersuit before her coffee cooled. Trespass, vandalism, harassment, attempted fraud via fake fines. The HOA fired back with a stack of bluster, reckless endangerment, obstruction of a community easement, emotional distress. We stapled their lies to our receipts. Then I did what bullies never expect. I offered something better. Replace the threats with real boundaries and we'll talk delivery access, I told the reasonable neighbors at the feed store. But the freeway days are done, heads nodded. Fear started shrinking. Karen doubled down on theater. She staged curbside speeches with clipboards and volunteers in matching polos. "He set a trap that could have hurt children," she shouted, waving papers. I stood on my porch and spoke one sentence to the crowd and the camera. "Everything you are accusing me of is on these videos only with your names on it." I dropped a link to a private folder for the sheriff and the court. No yelling, no bait, just pixels and dates. The algorithm and the neighborhood always pick receipts over rumor in the long run. Drop receipts if you've learned that lesson the hard way. Court turned into a clinic. Karen arrived in a red suit and a grin, flanked by board members like nervous bridesmaids. Her lawyer painted me as a recluse with a booby-trapped perimeter. Martha rose with a calm that tasted like granite. "Exhibit A," she said, and the screen lit, Karen's bumper hitting steel, airbags blooming, spikes shredding tires, posted signs in frame, my certified letters in the corner like subtitles. Exhibit B, 3 prior rammings, night cam footage, gleeful tailgating from her treasurer. Exhibit C, county parcel maps proving my road sat outside their power. Even the judge's eyebrows said, "Really?" Karen took the stand and detonated. "I'm the president, he cannot defy me." The judge didn't raise his voice. "This is a court, Miss Richardson, not your clubhouse. Sit down." He dismissed their claims with language so clean it squeaked, then ordered the HOA to pay damages, fined Karen for reckless driving, and accepted our video into the public record. The clip leaked before lunch. Someone added orchestral hits and the caption, "You shall not pass." I didn't share a single meme, but I didn't need to. Consequences were finally louder than Karen. The fallout hit Pine Hollow like a summer storm. Silent neighbors started talking. Stories poured out, mystery fines, inspection threats, pay by Friday or lien. Board members resigned in waves. The insurer sent a letter that said, in lawyerly English, "We don't cover intentional dumb." The management company stopped cashing orders without 2 signatures. Meanwhile, I didn't spike the ball. I rebuilt the turnaround pad for delivery trucks, posted emergency GPS at the gate, and mailed the sheriff a thank you with a laminated copy of the injunction. Professionalism is a crowbar. It opens doors rumors can't. Karen tried one more blitz, trail preservation walk, a mass trespass with strollers and hashtag signs. I had already filed conservation paperwork, refreshed the injunction sign, and set a portable message board flashing private road court order enforced. Deputies arrived before the selfie sticks. "Turn around, folks," one said, polite as a pastor, "or line up for trespass warnings." Engines cooled. Marcus reversed. Even the diehards wilted under blue lights. Karen hissed, "This isn't over," but the gravel under her flats said otherwise. Reality, finally, had teeth. Settlement talks slid onto a conference table that smelled like paper and humility. Their counsel said, "Misunderstanding a lot." Ours set down math. Gate repairs, itemized. Fence posts, itemized. Attorney hours, painful, also itemized. Our terms were simple. Written admission of no easement, cease all fictitious fines, reimburse damages, publish a boundary notice to homeowners, adopt a real bid process, stop weaponizing clipboards. In exchange, I'd pilot a keyed farm access plan for 2 adjoining ranchers who actually had reason to pass, with logs, hours, and insurance. Adulthood in 6 bullet points. Karen glared daggers at the signature line. The board signed anyway, but I wasn't just trying to win, I was trying to finish. That Sunday, I hosted a Know Your Map hour at the turnaround. I brought parcel prints, highlighters, and a thermos. 15 neighbors came. We talked easements versus vibes, what an injunction does, and why gates aren't the enemy, lies are. A retired banker said, "I donated because I wanted a place to walk with my grandson. I never asked who owned it." I nodded. That's not shame. That's a lesson. Ask first. Always. We ended with a walk to the fence line and back. No drama, just boundaries. Recited like a prayer. YouTube family, here's the blueprint you asked me to spell out. Save it, share it, tattoo it on your HOA if you have to. Step 1. Pull the parcel map and survey. Make it your phone wallpaper. Step 2. Post clear signs tied to law, not attitude. Step 3. Install lawful deterrents, steel, lights, cameras, timers, and keep a clean incident log. Step 4. Communicate in writing. Certified beats shouted. Step 5. File for an injunction before the 10th circular argument. Step 6. Offer a reasonable alternative. So, reasonable people have a place to stand. Step 7. Let the clowning go viral. You stay boring and correct. If this helps, drop MAPS is greater than MYTHS, so someone lost in HOA fog sees a lighthouse. Weeks later, the board held a real meeting for the first time in years. No monologues, no ambushes, just neighbors and numbers. They voted to adopt competitive bids over $5,000, publish monthly statements online, and add a homeowner vote to any project touching land they don't own. Radical concepts, I know. Sarah, the teacher who used to whisper, was elected president in a landslide. She asked me to present the new access agreement. Conservancy days, school field trips, no feeding, wildlife, and a delivery contact box at the gate. It passed unanimously. No cheering, just relief that sounded like air leaving a room that had been held too long. Karen? She didn't vanish, people like her rarely do. She tried an appeal, lost, tried a smear, fizzled. A for sale sign sprouted in her Bermuda-trimmed yard. The closing price looked like karma plus closing costs. Last I heard, she moved to a condo with no HOA to command and a garage gate that ignores speeches. Marcus shaved his beard and took up pickleball, which feels about right. The treasurer got quiet. The clipboards learned to knock before photographing hay bales. And the creek behind my steel gate? It went back to doing creek things. I still hunt, now with neighbors who ask first and bring thermoses. I still weld, but mostly on projects that don't involve outsmarting SUVs. Sometimes I catch myself watching the turnaround at sunset, waiting for a dust trail that never comes. The silence tastes like something I had forgotten. Peace that doesn't ask permission. If you take anything from this mess, let it be this. You don't have to shout to win. You have to document, design, and outlast. Boundaries aren't rude, they're honest. Before I end, here's the spicy bit you wanted for the feed. The meme wave bought us more than laughs. It flushed out every quiet victim of clipboard rulemaking in 3 counties. DMs landed with screenshots of fines that said nothing, photos of violations that looked like lives. We passed a template, town to town, parcel, sign, certify, record, enjoin, offer. 3 other Karens found a mirror and finally blinked. If that's you tonight, staring at a letter that smells like fear, hear me. It's paper. You can answer paper with better paper. Final scene. Early fall. Sky washed clean. Steel posts catching first light. A county truck rolled up slow. The deputy from day one leaned out and lifted 2 fingers in a quiet salute. I waved back, swung the gate, and the hinges hummed like a well-tuned chord. No cameras, no crowds, no speeches, Just a road that knows who it belongs to, a community that finally knows the difference between sharing and stealing, and a man who rebuilt a boundary until it could carry truth without shouting. If you made it this far, smash subscribe and tell me where you're watching from. Somewhere out there, another shortcut is about to meet its wall. Let's make sure that wall is legal, steel, and calm, and that it holds. Karen's certified olive branch wasn't a peace offering, it was a leash. The subtext screamed, "Take down your gate, restore our shortcut, pretend the last few months never happened." I answered with 2 lines and a photocopy that weighed more than a lawsuit. My deed, the parcel map, the mites and bounds description that choose lawyers for breakfast. Not only was my ranch outside their jurisdiction, the road itself, the one she crowned a community lifeline, was deeded to me outright. Taxes paid, title insured, recorded years ago under a legal description that doesn't blink when someone waves a clipboard. If you've ever been bullied with paperwork, you know the satisfaction of answering with better paperwork. My letter wasn't loud. It was final. News travels faster than trucks on gravel. By sunset, front porch whispers had turned into a quiet chorus. It's his road. A few neighbors I'd only seen as silhouettes at HOA meetings stopped by the fence with careful smiles and a whole lot of eye contact I hadn't seen in months. They weren't there to pick sides. They were there to exhale. Power without truth is heavy, and Pine Hollow had been carrying it too long. Karen tried one last performance, stormed to my steps, waving my letter like a victory flag that turned out to be a white one. "Fraud!" she shouted. "You can't own a road." I nodded at the mailbox camera, light glowing red. "You can check the county site. Or keep shouting at evidence. Your call." That was the click you can feel but can't script the moment a bully realizes the stage is empty and the audience has migrated to reality. Karen's voice rose, then rattled, then fell into a silence only phones can explain. The sidewalk jury had already deliberated. She stomped, spun, and stormed away, leaving nothing but an echo and a dust wake that didn't linger. The HOA didn't vanish. It shrank back into what it should have been, a lawn committee with a calendar. Fines returned to things like hedges behaving badly, inspections became phone calls instead of ambushes, and the lane to my gate? It remembered what it was before drama, quiet, useful, mine. Peace didn't mean I got soft. I kept the cameras, the logs, the laminated copies of the injunction, and the title report pinned inside the shop cabinet like a farmer's version of a first aid kit. I updated the delivery box with a QR code to the parcel map because clarity saves everyone time, and painted reflective hashes on the cattle guard so night drivers see geometry, not mystery. Little things, sturdy things. You can forgive without forgetting, but you can't rebuild trust on wishful thinking. The creek hummed. The horses learned the new rhythm. I slept with the kind of sleep you only earn after choosing steel over shouting. A week later, I did something wild. I invited the neighborhood for coffee at the turnaround. No speeches, no scorekeeping, just a pot that didn't run out, and a stack of printed parcel maps. We traced boundaries with fingertips. We talked easements, posted hours, why private and public aren't insults, they're instructions. A granddad admitted he'd believed the shortcut line because it was convenient to believe it. A young couple said they donated to the Access Fund out of hope, not malice. I told them hope doesn't have to be naive, it just needs a map. We agreed on one rule that fits better than any bylaw. Ask first. A month passed without drama, which is its own kind of plot twist. The new board, quiet, competent, borderline boring, published a one-page finance snapshot and a policy that anything over $5,000 gets 3 bids, homeowner vote, parcel map attached, radical transparency disguised as paper. Sarah, now president, asked if we'd formalize the access plan we'd been piloting. Delivery hours, school field trips with docents, no wildlife feeding, no off-hours cutting through. We sat at my tailgate and wrote it in plain English. It passed unanimously, not because everyone loved me, but because everyone loved not being lied to. As for Karen, Pride didn't let her stick around to watch the credits. A for sale sign sprouted in that perfect grass like a dandelion with a closing date. She didn't come by to say goodbye, and I didn't go to gawk. You can build a story out of someone else's humiliation, or you can build a life out of your own boundary. I chose the second. A moving truck swallowed furniture and trophies. The gate at her new condo will open for a key, not a title speech. That's not Schadenfreude, it's urban planning. Here's the part I didn't expect. With the noise gone, the call started 2 towns over, 4 counties away. People who'd been paying a fear tax to their own clipboards asked for the blueprint. I told them what I told you. Parcel, signs, cameras, certified mail, injunction, offer something reasonable. Repeat until truth outruns rumor. A rancher sent me a photo of his new bollards with a caption that read, "Map beats myth." A widow from a cul-de-sac wrote, "You gave me words for a no I couldn't say out loud." It's a strange thing to become a lighthouse by accident. It's stranger still to realize you don't have to keep the light to yourself. One evening, Frank Williams called from Florida, the man who taught me to respect a deed by leaving one behind. "Saw the trail sign in that video," he said, voice thin and proud. "Did right by it." I told him we'd named the overlook in his honor, that school kids were learning the difference between caring for a place and claiming it. He laughed softly. "That's a better park than a stone arch." We didn't say, Karen. We didn't have to. Some names are lessons, others are landmarks you leave behind and don't revisit. If you came for a moral, it isn't shiny. It's workmanlike. Boundaries are maintenance. You don't set them once and frame the certificate. You walk them after storms. You repaint the post before the letters fade. You say no in clean sentences. You make room for yes where it's honest. And when someone insists your fence is rude, you hand them a map instead of a monologue. The internet loves a knockout blow. Real life loves a calendar and a wrench. There's one more scene I've been saving. Late fall, silver light. A damp chill that makes steel sing when you tap it. I was loading hay when a minivan rolled up slow. Not a board member, just a mom with a sleeping toddler and a question in her eyes. If I text ahead, she asked, could we walk the loop on Saturdays? My dad's got bad knees. I pointed to the posted hours and the permit QR, then to the creek. If you'll promise to leave it better than you found it. She nodded like a vow. They came the next week, with a bag for trash and thermoses for tea. Nobody filmed it. That's how peace looks. Ordinary, repeatable, unviral. YouTube family, I'm supposed to end with a punchy hook, but you've heard enough hooks for a lifetime. So here's a checklist instead, the kind that actually survives washing machines and storms. 1. Know your lines, parcel map, survey, deed. 2. Speak law, not volume signs, letters, logs. 3. Build for behavior, steel for ramming, lights for lurking, a turnaround for the truly lost. Document like a scientist, time, plate, clip, cloud. 5. File early injunctions beat arguments. 6. Offer the good path. Reasonable access beats resentment. This beds. Keep your wins small and stacked systems, not scenes. If you're standing at a figurative gate tonight, time, sanity, safety, dignity, and someone insists it's for the community, breathe. Community that requires your silence isn't community, it's choreography. You don't have to perform, you have to protect. Drop in the comments, what's the boundary you're rebuilding, and what's the steel you're choosing this time? I read them, I answer when I can. And if this story handed you a tool you needed, hit subscribe so the next tired neighbor finds a plan and not a panic at 2 in the morning. I still oil the hinges once a month. I still wave at delivery trucks like they're friends. I still stand at the fence line when the sun pennies the creek and think about how close I came to living on someone else's turf. The gate doesn't feel like a wall anymore. It feels like a sentence finished with a period instead of a question mark. That's the legacy I want for anyone who made it this far. Not revenge, not viral victory. Just a clean line, drawn once, maintained often, respected by people who learned that rules aren't rude and maps aren't mean. And that's where we leave Pine Hollow. Not perfect, but honest. Not quiet because it's scared, quiet because it's finally done explaining. If you ever drive past a steel gate faced in cedar, tip a hat. Somewhere behind it is a builder who chose to outlast the noise. Somewhere beyond it is a creek doing creek things, a kid learning the word easement, and a neighborhood that learned the difference between sharing and stealing. Doors close. Trails open. The road knows who it belongs to. So do I. So can you.